We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Good evening. Welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. I haven't had time to promote this. I've literally just got back in the door. Just sort my volume out. Busy day today, out and about, and yeah, not had a chance to promote it. So I don't often ask you guys to do this, but if you can click share it to your Twitter and social media, that would do me a favour. Just to let people know that we've got an hour-long talking. We're just going to chat about Newcastle. And as you know, anyone who's watched this show, you know, I don't come on screen. It's the 1 week, one show where I can just chill out and sit back and take your questions. And I don't often do these, but to be honest, I've had a couple of messages, people saying they enjoyed them. It's just nice to have a chat, not have anybody else on. And usually because NUFC Matters, I tend to spend most of the time interviewing people and getting other people's opinions and going around the board where, you know, people don't really get a chance to hear my opinion on Newcastle United. So that's what tonight's about. As I always say, I will answer stuff honestly and as best I can. And I will give my opinion and my opinion only. And that's it. So if you've got a question, ping it in. If it dies a death and there's not many watching, then I will probably call it a day early, because as I say, I have been on the go since 6 this morning and literally just stopped about 10 minutes ago. So Barry Hogan, good evening. Good evening, Yano. I hope everything's going all right with your treatment and everything as well, pal. Barry says, Steve, do you feel some of our supporters will force Howe out over time with their constant whinging about the lack of success and inability to beat everyone? I hope it doesn't happen. He is a keeper. You know what, Barry? And I know you listen to the breakfast show. I am absolutely pig sick of social media. And I've got to use it. I have to use it to promote. I've got to use it to promote the show. I've got to use it to promote charity that I support. I've got to do it. You know, over the years, I've used it massively to sell tickets for events, whether it be football, music, or whatever. And social media can be such a big plus, a massive plus in life. But you know what? It is a cesspit, and it is so toxic at times. With regards to Newcastle United Football Club, you literally cannot have an opinion, and the certain forms of social media are worse than others. And I think we all know X, formerly known as Twitter, is probably the worst. My block list on there is absolutely huge, and some of it in the early days. I think I've been on there since probably a year and a half after it started. I brought a lot of that on myself with the way that I would comment on things, because that was at the very age of, Twitter and the digital footprint, etc. And I would I'd put, the memes and stuff up that you would get, taking the mick out of Sunderland, and you'd retweet them, you'd get it, you'd put your opinion up there about Newcastle United's result. And you know what? It was in its early days, I thought that would probably be the worst it would be, and it would get better. It would become governed. Well, how wrong was I? Because look at it now. It's like the Wild West. And I think since Elon Musk took it over, I just seem to get bombarded on my timeline with fake accounts, with accounts which are bots, which are promoting things which I've got no interest in. My timeline is full of stuff which I wouldn't comment on. I don't comment on politics. I don't comment on wars. Yet, for whatever reason, the algorithm seems to be pushing absolute garbage to us. But the question you ask is about football, and the how out brigade. I don't even think they're Newcastle fans. I understand. Listen, no manager is beyond criticism. Not one manager. That doesn't matter whether it's Bobby Robson, Sir Bobby, God bless him, Kevin Keegan, Joe Harvey. They will have all had their time where they would have received criticism. However, social media in those days didn't exist under Joe Harvey. It didn't exist in Kevin Keegan's day. It was starting out probably just after Sir Bobby. But Blue Rhythm Boys just nailed it there. Fans on social media don't represent the actual fan base. Exactly. They represent a social media minority. And some of them support other clubs, not necessarily Sunderland, by the way. Premiership rivals. It could be anybody, but they're not Newcastle United fans. Some of them are trying to get a rise. Some may claim to be Newcastle fans, but they're not. And it's just sport to those people. And sadly, we bite. So will social media force Eddie Howe out? Of course it won't. Of course it won't. What will force Eddie Howe out is results. If he continues to have bad results, say he gets the majority of his team back and he's still losing games and leaking goals, and the team are unhappy and there's unrest in the dressing room, etc. That's what will force Eddie Howe out. Social media won't. I get where you're coming from, though, Barry. Your suggestion would be, I guess, that Mia Dad and Amanda and Jamie are on social media, and I would imagine there are PIF representatives who monitor social media as well. And I guess your suggestion is, opinions could be swayed by, that kind of campaign on social media. That's rubbish. For me, I don't think that would happen, Barry. That's not having a go at you. I just don't think it would happen. Not with these people. They're very professional. I think it would be down to results and results only. I agree with you. He is a keeper. He is somebody who we should be looking at keeping a hold of. And Eddie Howe cannot be judged on this season alone. Eddie Howe, so far, has money in the bank. He kept us up when we should have gone down. He then gets us into 4th place in the Premier League and gets us to a cup final. This season was always going to be difficult. The owners admitted as much. Darren Eales admitted as much on the Amazon documentary. He's got a period of grace. Whatever happens this season will happen. What happens in the summer will go a long way to deciding Eddie's fate. And what I mean by that is who to bring in, who to get rid of, how the money is spent, because there'll be money available in the summer. And then how he starts next season. And that's it, really. I think he will, I think he will do well again next season. All managers, though, go on this. It's history. Our history of our club is full of these stories. No manager lasts forever, and he could follow a path of destruction. He could lose every game at the start of next season and find himself out on his ear. But at this moment in time, will social media determine where Eddie Howe is? Absolutely not. No chance at all. Jano, great to hear from you, mate. great to hear from you. I'm glad your treatment is going well. You know what, mate? I am surrounded by people at the moment going through a similar thing to you, and some are far worse than others, and it's horrific. And as everybody knows, I lost my mum to this horrific disease 2 years ago. Well done, mate. I'm glad it's going well for you. And, the thoughts of everybody at NUFC Matters in the chat and who is on the panels goes with you. We love seeing you in the chat. And, thanks for your support. SJP Dave, good evening. Under 18s nil, Bournemouth 5, 51 minutes in. Yeah, I saw that, mate, as I was heading home. I was going to go to it, but I just haven't had the time. I hope there's a decent crowd there. But yeah, disappointing. The Bournemouth lads, mind, I saw them in Newcastle today at 10 o'clock this morning having a walk along the quayside. So they've taken this very, very professionally. They've come up, obviously, overnight. They've stayed. They've probably had like a Bournemouth first team treatment. They've treated this like a Premier League game. They've given the lads a bit of a taste of what it's like to be involved in a big game. And for those Bournemouth lads to be coming and playing at St James's Park, wow. What an honour for our under 18s to be playing at St James's Park. What an honour. I'm gutted for them. I'm gutted for Carrick. He will be disappointed. I would like to think that they might get at least a consolation goal, but that's a hell of a performance from Bournemouth. And they've got Spurs in the next round. So that'll be a cracking game in the 5th round. Rob, good evening, mate. Hope life is good, and thank you for sharing it. Oh, this is a good question, Rob. What is your favourite home strip, Newcastle United? I think everybody would probably expect us to say the Entertainers era from 95, 96, the Grandad collar shirt. I do like that one. I did like it. But that's not my favourite. My favourite home strip is the one that we won the promotion to the first division in 83, 84. Couple of reasons. First of all, that was my very first season supporting the club. Secondly, because it had the blue star on, and the blue star was synonymous with Newcastle United when I became a supporter. Hence the reason that my second favourite strip is the away strip, the grey one from the same season. So simple answer to a simple question, that is my favourite top. I have had other tops that I have liked. I do like the season's home top, bizarrely. I don't know whether that's just because I've started to buy tops again since Mike Ashley left the club. But yeah, that's my favourite home top, Rob. Derek, good evening. Do you expect the club will spend in the summer to make the next step? I probably preempted your question there, didn't I, by answering, saying I think this summer will be a big summer. Yes, I do think Newcastle United will spend this summer, Derek, and I think they'll spend well. I mentioned it last night on Geordie's here, Geordie's there. I expect Newcastle to spend probably the most that they've spent in a transfer window in the summer. I don't think we're going to go through this window with nobody coming in. I still think, unless there's been a change when I've been out the house today, and I don't think there has, I'd still expect Calvin Phillips, to potentially come to Newcastle. I still think the player would prefer to play here than Crystal Palace. No offense to Crystal Palace, good team, but Calvin Phillips will have seen the atmosphere at St James's Park on that game a couple of days ago, and he must be thinking, if I can just play my football there at the end of the season, I'm going to be recognised. I'm going to be in a team that plays together and plays the kind of football I want to play. That's where you want to be, isn't it? Surely, as a player, unless he's got ties to London or something, I just can't see why he would want to play at Crystal Palace instead of playing at Newcastle. But we'll wait and see. But I still think Newcastle will make a move in the loan market at the very least. So yes, I do expect Newcastle to spend big in the summer. Yes, it is a cesspit, 100%. Twitter, now known as X, I just don't understand. We did that documentary, if you remember, during lockdown called Think Before You Tweet. If you haven't seen it, it's available on Amazon. All proceeds go to a charity, but you can watch it on my channel for free. We did that documentary and we tried to show, that actually behind accounts that troll, and these two guys who came on our show, I won't name them because you can see the documentary. Those two guys were well known on the Newcastle timeline. They trolled each other incessantly. They trolled other people incessantly. I got them together away from Twitter, and I sat down in between the two of them, and they had a go at each other, and they argued. But you know what? It showed, that documentary, if anything, it shows that two people behind faceless accounts can come and sit down and speak to each other, and they didn't become best friends, but it stopped all the rubbish on social media. For me, it's been a roller coaster ride on social media, and I think a lot of it's been educational for me. I've learned how to deal with it. I've had to learn how to deal with it, and I haven't used this phrase for years. Well, for a long time on here, but putting your head above the parapet. I've done it for years. On some occasions, it's been good, and on other occasions, it's been bad. But I think I've learned each circumstance that I've done it. I've learned a hell of a lot, and Twitter is no exception. And you've just got to learn how to use the relevant, things available on there. The block button is very important. Reporting people is very important on there, because if you want to have a normal existence on there, then use the facilities that are available. Twitter have become a lot better since Musk took over with regards to the reporting side of things. It happens a lot quicker, and 9 times out of 10, those people who are offending are getting closed down. And yeah, unfortunately, some of these people are finding a way around it and creating a new account, etc. But it's only a matter of time before I think, things change, laws change, because we can already see the government aren't happy with the way things are going on social media. We've seen politicians targeted. We've seen some cases which have led to imprisonment. So, I think it's only a matter of time, sadly, for those who use social media properly, where more draconian laws are brought in, and I think that is what will happen. So, yeah, Blue Rhythm Boy, of course, I touched on that earlier, and it is great to hear that is in recovery in such a way. So it's great news. I hope players don't read social media from the fans. Blue Rhythm Boy, I would imagine they do. Not all the players do. I would imagine some of the players have got pseudonyms and are under accounts which aren't themselves. But I also feel that some players can't help but read it. Look, for example, Kieran Trippier. He's got an account, as we know, on social media, on Twitter, on X, and on Instagram. So is his wife. And for a period of time, there was nothing over Christmas when Kieran had to come back from international duty early. If you remember, there was a lot of rumours flying around, all unsubstantiated. But then nothing on social media, so we didn't know what was going on. But there has been a resurgent now, and more stuff on there, and that's it. We'll move on. But I would imagine if Kieran doesn't read it, maybe the missus does. Can't help but read some of the accounts, and you see some of the things have been replied to. So I would say some of the players do, and some of the players don't. Eddie Howe says he doesn't. He says he's not had social media accounts in his life, doesn't intend to. And he's often said that the way he's dealt with things is he's never read. He didn't used to read the reviews in the papers. He says, I tell a lie. I remember this press conference. He says, I remember reading one press review. He says it was on my debut, and I got a good review. I think I got 8 out of 10. I think he said. He says, but then next week he said I was slated, and he said since then I've never read a paper. So he says subsequently I've never read social media, which I found that's just the way he deals with it. It's like when you hear what he says about you never hear him pat himself on the back or pat the team on the back, because he said the next game is around the corner, and that can be a negative experience. So some people do, some people don't. Blue Rhythm Boy. David, good evening. It's like a big playground. Childish. Facebook gave me 30-day ban for my opinion on Elon Musk. That's a surprise, because obviously Elon Musk doesn't run Facebook. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people get bans on Facebook. Facebook's not my favorite social media either. I used to have 2 accounts on there, which I didn't realize was illegal. I didn't realize you're not allowed to have 2 accounts on Facebook. And out of the blue, they took what I would conceive my main account down. This was about 5 years ago. I lost all my photographs, David. I lost everything. Now, luckily, I'd backed up 98% of these photographs. but I'd lost about 2% of photographs I'll never get back. I emailed, I tried to get in touch with them, impossible. I was eventually allowed to download what was left of my Facebook account, which was fairly minimal. I think I managed to retrieve 1 or 2 photographs which I thought I'd lost, but the rest was gone. Everything gone, life events, etc. And I thought, you know what, it's not worth doing it anymore. I've still got a Facebook account. I very rarely use it. I use it to promote, and that's it. I certainly don't put stuff on there of any relevance. But yeah, I just don't. I don't put anything on there which I would be afraid of losing. And yeah, it's disappointing. But they do ban people for things which I find crazy. There is a lot of far left and far right stuff on there, political stuff, and they won't stand for that. The community guidelines won't stand for that. But then you'll see somebody post a video up and they'll take it down for something inappropriate, which I would say in this day and age probably isn't inappropriate. But they've just got bizarre rules and regs. And what you've got to remember is there's millions of users, and there's people sitting in chairs at Facebook head office who decide your fate. But yeah, it's crazy. But I tell you what, David, another thing, we should start putting down our phones and tablets and speaking to people. I think I said it on the breakfast show this week. Yeah, it was this morning. Rai, the Borough fan, said to me, he said, we're talking about different sports. And he said, well, he says, I can imagine Steve Wraith watching tennis. And I said, well, I'm not a huge tennis fan. I said, but I watch Wimbledon. I said, but when I was growing up, I watched Wimbledon. I'd watch the snooker at Sheffield. I'd watch the darts at the Lakeside. I'd watch the wrestling on a Saturday. I'd watch the big boxing fights on ITV. I'd watch Grandstand. I'd watch World of Sport. I'd, like most of you out there, I'd watch the FA Cup final was a whole day where your family would sit around the telly. And I said, nowadays, that's gone because some of this isn't on normal TV anymore. It's not on terrestrial TV anymore. But that whole family environment. Remember, back in whenever the TV was invented, and there was this box put in the middle of the room in the 1940s, late 40s, 50s, and people were like, "Oh, what's that?" And people had moved from the gramophone to the radio to the TV, and suddenly this was like, "Oh, let's sit around and watch, entertainment on a Saturday night and have a laugh and have a cup of tea and a slice of cake." But that was a way of getting the family all together. Now it's completely different. Everybody's separated, but it's like that in most households. You and your wife or whatever are sitting downstairs. Your kids are in their rooms. They're on their tablets. They're on their phones, but they're not interacting with you. We try to have a meal at least once, at least tea time. Try and have a meal at tea time and sit down, and it might only be 20 minutes, but that 20 minutes for me is really important because you get a chance to hear what your kids are up to and what they're doing and what the kind of day they've had and have they got any problems, have they got any issues. But most households just don't even do that, and a lot of that's down to technology. And I said to him, I said, I've gone a bit deep after asking if I watch tennis, but you can see where I'm coming from. And it's social media is part of that. I switched notifications off of my phone. People go mad at me. I'm in a WhatsApp group and they're going, well, why hasn't Steve commented? Well, it's because I've just switched my phone off, because if I don't, I spend far too long looking at notifications. So I've switched all my notifications off. So I will go to my phone, apart from the obvious one, a text message and a phone call, which is really what you only need a phone for. I've switched the notifications off, and I'll go to those social media networks when I want to go to, not when Facebook tells us to go there. I don't want to know if somebody's liked a picture of, of a poster that I've put up. I don't need to know that. And WhatsApp groups have become the bane of my life. People sometimes get a bit offended if I suddenly just leave a group, because I get sick of it. I get sick of the rubbish that's put in it. Some people just fill it full of, and I'm not just talking about Newcastle ones here. I mean, quite a few people fill it with a joke or a video or whatever, and I've got no time for it, man. I've got no interest in it. So I just ignore it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot more people should do that. We should spend more time speaking to each other and communicating with each other, because that's what it's all about. You know, and yeah, that's just me. Rant over. It is called Race Rant the Flyer, isn't it? Good evening, Tom. Hope you're well, pal. Sorry it's a bit later than normal, Tom. Normally I'm on a bit earlier, but I've had a busy day. Trulls, I hope you're well. Thanks as always for jumping in the chat. Good to see you. If you can give it a share, folks. I haven't had time to promote this today. And to be honest, I always feel a bit weird promoting a show with just me on. I feel it's a bit odd. So, you know, if other people do it, that's fine. But I you know, it's the one I don't promote. Blue Rhythm Boy, I think the Saudi side of the ownership could get impatient. They might not have really known who Howe was before he applied for the job. It's a good point. I mean, Al Ramayan, according to a Daily Mail article I read today, seems to have his own issues, doesn't he? You know, there seems to be some kind of issue with him. So I don't think Newcastle United is going to be his main focus of attention at this moment in time. It's well worth checking that Daily Mail article out. I can't pick it out on the top of my head, so I'm not at the top of my head. So I'm not going to say anything which is incorrect. But go and read it. It's easy to find. Just put Al Ramayan in Daily Mail, you'll find it. I read it this morning, but he's got some accusations levelled at him. That's for certain. But yeah, you look at, there's no doubt that the Saudis won't have known who Eddie Howe was. I'll repeat the conversation that I had the day after the takeover. I went down to Jesmond Dean House to meet my dad. I had an hour's sit down with him because, bearing in mind, we'd done, you know, a lot of work together over the course of, you know, the takeover going through. And Eddie Howe had already been in touch with Newcastle United that day, been in touch, and Mirdad had spoken to him. And Mirdad did say, well, what's your thoughts on Eddie Howe? I've got to be honest, I wasn't positive about him. I was impressed with Eddie Howe when I'd seen him on Sky wearing his suit when he'd come back from his time monitoring Simeone. Wouldn't have been my first choice, certainly not. But you know, what a great job he's done, and I wouldn't have anybody else at the moment. But yeah, look, the Saudis will get impatient, but at this moment in time, they understand where they are. They understand they can't spend money. They understand financial fair play is restricting us. And as a result, Eddie Howe is struggling because of the injuries. Newcastle are struggling because of the injuries. So I think they won't get impatient this summer. But I think if they spend money in the summer and nothing, the results aren't positive going into, let's say we get to the October international break next season and Newcastle aren't in a European spot and they're out of the Carabao Cup, I think there'll be a decision made then. That's what football's like. And that's not inside knowledge. That's my opinion. That's the way football works. And I don't think any amount of pleading by those who are closer to the situation than others, i.e. Amanda, Mirdad and Jamie, would change Saudi PIF's opinion. I think they would probably say it's probably time for a change. But I still think Eddie will get it right. But like I say, all managers go on that journey of, you know, starting off, doing well, plateauing out, and then results dipping. And that's, you know, that's just the nature of the beast, sadly. Paul, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. David, another question. Do you think our owners will be pragmatic about our season taking injuries into effect? 100%. 100%. It's there for all to see. And, you know, the rumor mill is in overdrive. I've heard one or two rumors about some of those players who were injured, some positive, some negative. Talk about one or two players potentially being back earlier than we thought. Talk of one player potentially having, you know, another setback. Not worth mentioning them on the show because it would add to the rumors. It would fuel rumors, and I don't want to do that. But genuinely speaking, yes, I do think that the owners would be pragmatic about the injuries, 100%. And I think they will give them, they will give Eddie Howe time. Okay, look, it's halfway through the show. As always, I'll play the ads. Give the show a share. If you've got a question, stick it in the chat. I will stay on for another half an hour. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210102. Go to the website, mrvickies.co.uk, or drop them an email, info@mrvickies.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at the nufctoontalk.com. We've also got an event coming up next year. It's in January the 19th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. It's an evening with Nobby Solano. Tickets are available on voucher for £20. Don't forget, Supermac and Gibbo do every pre-match at Louis Liquor Store. It's free entry, children welcome, and there is great food by Fed's Fried Chicken. They're usually on pre-match and sometimes post-match at Louis Liquor Store. Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. It's the Q&A, which a lot of people have asked for. I will try to do one. I say one a month, but I mean, this is 2 in 2 weeks. So if you've got a question for me, which often you don't get a chance to ask them, please feel free to ask it. And let me get back to where I was. Blue Rhythm Boys said, how is up there with Keegan and Sir Bobby for me? Troll says, to be fair, if we got fourth because Chelsea, Spurs and Liverpool wasn't good enough, in my opinion. Long way to go. Long way to go, Trolls. 100% is a long way to go. And we're only 6 points off sixth. And I think that's got to be Eddie Howe's first target. Stay in the FA Cup. Stay within touch and distance of the European spots. Europa would be good for me this year. We've learned a lot from the Champions League. Europa would be good. You know, I'd hate to think we'll make a late run and get back in the Champions League. And I know people say, well, why? Europe's Europe. But, you know, God, we're just, you know, I think it's a bridge too far. I think we're about 12 or 13 points away from that. Anything can happen. But I think Europa would be good. And I know it's a Thursday and I know it's different again. But, you know, Newcastle with the right signings in the summer could win the Europa. Look at West Ham. Look at what West Ham's done. It doesn't have to be a domestic trophy that Newcastle win to get the proverbial monkey off their back. You know, but, you know, let's see. Stay in the FA Cup and win that this year. It'd be fantastic. Blue Rhythm Boy, if they don't find a way to bring people in this window, is that a sign Howe isn't being backed? Or will they keep the powder dry for the summer and just see what happens this season, given the expected drop? I don't think it's a sign that he's not being backed. I think it's a job that I think it's a sign that the recruitment haven't done their job properly. And I think Steve Nixon is the man who probably Kevin had pointed out Kevin saying Steve Nixon and Steve Hasty was saying Dan Ashworth, but it's Nixon who recruits. So I I think the blame lies at their door, not at Eddie Howe's. Eddie Howe's the man who coaches them. Yes, he has a say on who he wants in, but I think it comes down to the recruitment side of things. David says, Steve, if we continue increasing our revenue at the current rate of 40% in 3 years from our current 250 million, we will be generating 686 million. David, great stats, mate. Got to be honest, I hadn't even looked at that. But yeah, you're right. We're still got a hell of a long way to go, though. We're 14 years behind everyone else because of the way Mike Ashley ran the club. And I still think financially, I felt Mike Ashley was running the club properly. And pre-FFP, he was. But with FFP in the Premier League, it's a nightmare for Newcastle because 1 mile's behind in commercial revenue. And we're light years away from some of these other teams. But then what we don't have, which Man United have, for example, is a huge debt around our necks. Because Ashley made sure that the bills were paid, if you like. So we're not in the same situation as Everton. I mean, Everton really, if as it looks, 777 could pull out. They've got a half-built stadium, and they potentially could be in the Championship. They could lose another 6 points, and who's to say that they're going to claw that back? If Everton drop into the Championship, what happens to them? They could, could they go bust? I don't know. I don't know the full ins and outs of their finances, but you're right. Look, if we keep increasing our revenue at that current rate, we're going to be able to compete. We're going to be up there with some of the big guns again. And that's a big thing. I think that's why they're constantly trying to change the rules to keep Newcastle in their place. 100%. Trolls, if we keep losing next month, we're in danger of ending up in the relegation battle. Not likely, though. Trolls, you're not Alan in disguise, are you? That's the kind of thing Alan used to say. And only joking, Alan. We're not going to. We're not going to be in a relegation battle. There's no doubt about that. And that's a fact. The biggest factor in our success last season was the World Cup and our lack of involvement. Whilst other teams had players involved, our boys were away warm weather training, says, Yeah, and we're lucky with the AFCON, aren't we? African Cup of Nations. Nobody representing Newcastle with the exception of Yankuba Minte, who is on loan anyway. So, yeah, we've hit lucky with that. And the Asia Cup. Nobody away for that. Broken Flask, still smiling about the Mr. Warith comments last week. Proper tickled me. Yeah, I hate doing that to anybody in the chat, especially someone who's trying to interact. I don't know who Ray is, where Ray was from. The command of the English language suggests that potentially, was someone from abroad. Jules was definitely picking up on this on numerous occasions. I could see it. It was just repetitive messages, copy and paste. Is it a bot? I just don't know. But I don't like banning anyone from the comments if I can help it. I do leave a lot of it to the mods. This channel, as you know, is over 18s, and it's also, I don't like profanity and swearing in the chat if we can help it. And my community guidelines are set as such. Other channels I see, and I very rarely watch other channels, but I see quite a few obscenities flying around, etc. I see the chats going completely off the rails, people hurling abuse at each other. I just don't like it, and I get it. Having as many people on the chat as possible, and all these super stickers coming in, and people feeding the fire and loving the abuse being hurled around. That's not for me. I wanted to give people a different platform on here, somewhere, a safe place where people could come and have a chat. It's why I stopped doing the other podcasts on here, because it was attracting the wrong type of people. And I think now, the people that we've got on here are, some of you I know personally, others I don't know at all. But I feel like I know you just from the fact that you jump in the chat and we'll have a chat about football. But it's always well mannered, it's well natured. Of course, it's an emotive sport, and people fly off the handle sometimes, but in a sensible way on this chat. And I think that's what makes it nice. And the numbers, I'm happy with the numbers. it's it's manageable. I think is probably the best way to describe it. Friday nights and Sunday nights are probably the busiest shows. Professionals is quickly, I think that's becoming probably people's favorite show. That's why we've extended it an hour and a half. I think you'll enjoy the show that we're going to launch next Tuesday. It's a new show, a new presenter coming on with us as well, a friend of mine who's been a friend of mine for many years. Something a little bit different. I'm going to keep it under wraps for now, but something to look forward to next Tuesday. Melly's building his own platform. I'm finding it hard to tie in with Melly dates and times wise. And what I do like is to have people on the channel on regular shows. And I've been searching, and I thought Melly might have been the answer, but he works hard, bless him. And it's just, and Andy goes to Man United's games at home and away, so he's constantly on the road. So it's so difficult to get him to commit. We will have him back on at some point, but next week I'm hoping is the launch on Tuesday of a bit more of a permanent show. And again, I find it difficult because my job, because what I do in my life is, I'm all over the shop as well, intermittent with things. So ultimately, this one next Tuesday, hopefully it'll be a permanent show moving forward. Any murmurs about Adidas recresting classic kits like Scodro but with full branding? No, but I've seen all the photographs, Blue Rhythm Boy. I've seen all the photographs of Callum Wilson, Anthony Gordon, etc., all wearing the old retro stuff. So maybe that is going to be a plan. I know one of the lads who I know has often said that was a possibility. So we'll wait and see. JP, Dave, can we still challenge for top 4, or do you feel the ship has sailed and that Europa League is more realistic now? I genuinely think it's Europa this season. I still think we'll qualify for Europe. I think we'll qualify for Europa. I don't think we'll finish in the top 4 now. I did think at the top of the season, at the start of the season, that we could have finished in the Champions League position again, but not even I could have seen this injury list develop the way it has. David says, what's your views on Henderson going to Ajax away from Saudi Arabia? Spoken about it on the breakfast show. A lot of you won't even know what the breakfast show is. It's on the toonradio.co.uk. I do it 5 days a week, 7 till 9. Me, Ted the Mackham, and Rye the Borough fan, along with the guys who run the studio, Dave and Daz. And we do 7 till 9. And we talk we talk about the 3 Northeast clubs, and we also talk about football in general, whatever's going on. And we discussed this. We discussed Henderson a couple of times. It's no surprise he's left Saudi. I think there's a misrepresentation of Saudi in the media. I've seen them saying that. I've seen a lot of people saying there's only like 600-700 going to games. That might be the case at some games, but it's not all games. Some of the crowds that are getting in the 25,000-30,000 mark. But I think with Henderson, in his case in particular, it's not what it said on the tin for him. It's not what he was expecting. He probably didn't expect to get all the criticism. He probably expected it to be a bit more like the MLS, and it hasn't been. And he's clearly not happy to the fact that he's took 3/4 of his wages cut to get away. He's moved to Ajax. Well, that league is nowhere near the Premier League standard. He should probably do quite well there. The Dutch league and the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is great compared to the Dutch league, but I just, it's clear that he's just gone there to get away from Saudi. Saudi was a strange move, but when you look at the money he was getting, who could blame him? Lots of links with Edison at Atlanta. Looks quality. Would you want another Brazilian? Why not? The ones we've got aren't bad, are they, Barry? We've been linked with Edison before. Is it just paper talk? Is it just clickbait? I'm yet to be convinced that Newcastle would be moving for Edison in this window. Could be a summer transfer move. Is there a loan option available on Edison? I don't know. But yeah, look, with Edison, he comes highly recommended. And the last player we got from Atlanta wasn't bad, was he? So I wouldn't say no. Is Yields planting the seed that a new ground will be built to increase revenue and assist with spending long term? Would you accept a move if it was essential to progression? Yes is the question. Yes is the answer to the question about is he planting the seed. I think if you watch Mitch, Steve Hasty and Stu Penman on our channel on a regular basis, they've been saying this for months now, that this was the whole idea. This was the plan. They're almost subconsciously getting us into that kind of position where we just have to accept it. certain seating areas are being removed from what I would say, the working class fan, and are now being made upper class areas. They're being made corporate. They're pricing the ordinary fan out of the game, and the only way that we'll get those kind of cheaper seats now is if there's a new stadium built. So yes, I think Eales is planting that seed, and I think that's part of his remit. Would I accept a move? It depends where we move to. Would I have a choice? No, like you and everybody else who watches this and every other fan. Would we have a choice? No. It's up to the club where they move to. Would they make it look as if we've got a choice? Yes, no doubt about it. But it doesn't bear thinking about moving away from St James's Park. The best move for me, if we had to move, would be to build on Leazes Park and give them St James's as the natural replacement. But we went through this 20 odd years ago, and the NIMBYs, the not in my backyard, came out in force and kicked off about it. So I just wonder whether the club have even looked at the possibility of people objecting to it, because not everybody in Newcastle is a Newcastle fan, I'm afraid. I'm going to watch it with interest like you will. I'll always support the football team. If we stayed at St James's Park and the average season ticket went to £1,200 a season, would I see that as value for money to go and watch a game of football? I'm not sure. I might just have to stay at home, watch it on TV. I guess it's what you would justify. What would you justify as reasonable for football as well? A lot of questions to be asked, Blue Rhythm Boy. A lot of questions to be asked and a lot of questions to be answered. Yeah, Trolls, I've heard that the Phillips wants to move to us. So, yeah, I've heard that. Tom, who do you think will come up from the Championship and who do you think will get relegated? I think the bottom three will be the bottom three. 100%. I think that, I can't see how Sheffield United can get out of this. I think that Burnley have shown us, all the way through the season, they can't win those games and they can't close those games down. And I think despite the fact that they're putting up a brave fight, I think Luton will go as well. The only thing that could change that is if Everton are deducted another 6 points. But we could have a crazy situation where Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United are down at the end of the season. Everton and Forest have appealed against, let's say they get a 6 point deduction. And then we find after the season's finished that Everton go down or Forest go down because it's overruled. But at this moment in time, I certainly see those three being the teams that go down. As for who comes up from the Championship, I still think Leicester will win it. I know that they've slipped up at the weekend. I think Ipswich will fall away. I think Southampton will finish second. And I think the playoff place will probably go, and it's a toss of a coin, but I think it won't go to Ipswich and it won't go to Leeds. I think it'll go to West Brom or Middlesbrough. West Brom or Middlesbrough. So that's, and if you asked us to pick one, I'm going to pick Middlesbrough. Just got a feeling that Carrick's got his bit between his teeth. That Carabao Cup run hasn't capsized that Championship charge either. So I think Middlesbrough could come up. What about you being an actor? What film role would you take if you were given an opportunity? Derek, I'd take any film role, mate. If if one comes along, I'm not somebody who objects, but I like being on the stage, Derek, as well. I am theatrically trained. It's where I started. My first theatre role was at the age of 7. And I was an actor on stage from 7 until I was 18. Then walked away from it. You know what I mean? 17 years later, I was back on stage again, and that's where I got the acting bug, and I continued. But I'd like to do something different because of the way I look. And anyone who knows me will tell you I'm not that kind of person. That's what. But I can act the parts of the hard man, etc. I'm not a hard man. I never have been, never will be. People go, yeah, but you were a doorman. Yeah, because I was a good talker and I could talk things. Talk situations down. Physically, yeah, I could remove people, but I'm not a violent person, and I've never have been. So acting those parts though comes natural to me because of the way I look. I'd like to play something completely different. Give us the part of a vicar, or do you know what I mean? You know, the victim of a crime, but not. I'd love to do something a bit more challenging, or someone, like I'm just trying to think of something. Daniel Day-Lewis, my left foot, great performance. A challenging role like that, Derek, is what I'd like to do. Did you know that football will have the independent regulator by March, April, and then Richard Masters is not happy and wants to put conditions in? However, Rick Perry of the EFL can't wait for this announcement. Yeah, Kevin, I've seen that. We're covering that on the breakfast show. We have done over the last couple of weeks, but yeah, it's just all getting very interesting, isn't it? And I tell you what, the Premier League have made a right balls up taking 10 points off Everton, because now they've set the bar. Anything over that minor mistake that Everton made has to be punished accordingly. So it has to be 10 points as minimum now. I think the Premier League's hit the self-destruct. It's a wonder. It's a wonder that they did that. It really is. What's your opinion of the recruitment since the takeover? My opinion, I can't understand 28 million plus for a lad that can't nail down a starting place in the first 11. I think the recruitment has been spot on to a degree, but I get where you're coming from. I think the Lewis Hall one's a strange one. I was a fan of the Gordon signing. Not many people were, but I was a fan of Gordon, and I could see the potential in him. I'd seen him at Everton, and I genuinely felt that was going to be a plus, and I've been proved right. I think a lot of the younger players that we've signed, there'll be question marks over the amount of money we spent on youth. Will Minte be a success in the Premier League? Okay, he's doing okay in the Dutch league, but will he be any good in the Premier League? Garen Kowal, what's happened to him this season? Gone very quiet, hasn't it? So I think we've invested a hell of a lot of money in young players, but are any of them coming through? The plus side, due to injury, Lewis Miley's come through. Joe White, is he going to be any good? Sounds like he might get an opportunity over the next couple of weeks. But it's recruitment hasn't been bad, but I think if it was a school report, you'd could do better. There's still a lot of it on Twitter. NUF's creeps and what I expose accounts, etc. Yeah, I've seen all that blue ribbon, but they're blocked. I've blocked them, and people screenshot things, and people do it in good faith. They'll screenshot something. Have you seen this? And I just reply back, thanks for sending it. Just report it. Just report it. Yeah, I don't need to see it. It's why these people are blocked. Just report them. Those people don't mean anything to me. I don't know who they are. I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know why I'm targeted. But let them crack on. Just let them crack on. If it gives them some kind of satisfaction, then so be it. But it doesn't affect me at all mentally. I just ignore it and move on. And it's sad because I've seen other YouTubers recently targeted I've seen them go off it. I see them trying to interact with these people. You can't do it. You just can't do it. Report it to the police is your best bet. If you're that affected by it, and I'm not going to name the YouTubers, you all know who they are. But if you're being targeted and they're targeting your sexuality, or they're targeting your ethnic, your gender, your ethnic origins, whatever, then you need to report it, and you can report it to Twitter, and you can report it to the authorities. There are networks to deal with that, but until, I'm afraid, people clamp down on it, i.e. the government, and eventually once the government change things, the police will be able to act. But your best bet as well is, if you're not going to do that, just screenshot things, keep it, and just take it along, and the authorities will have to act, and the IP address will be traced, and that person will be arrested, and you move forward. But I've never gone down that route myself. I've just let them get on with it, and I've just blocked them. But that is the alternative if it is affecting you. Paul, which character would you have loved to have played in Auf Wiedersehen Pet? Dennis, I guess. Dennis. I would have, Dennis was a wonderful character. But if you wanted a more extreme one, probably Kevin Whaley's character, and Neville, because that's a challenge as an actor to play somebody that's completely different to you, and his character is completely different to me. I could do Dennis standing on my head, whereas Neville would have been probably more of a challenge. So let's say Neville. Tom Dixon, if Isaac played every game, how many goals would he score in a full season? How much would he cost now? He's a 25 goal man. I put him down to score 20 goals this season. And how many has he scored? 14. So he's got 6 more to get to where I was expecting him to be anyway. But if he played a full season, there's nothing to say he couldn't score 25 or even 30. Blue Rhythm Boy about social media, the hotel thing wouldn't have been a good read. Yeah, but where's that come from? Who on earth put that out there? I just, yeah, took one look at that and thought that's a Mackham who's put that up. But God knows where it's come from. But needless to say, nothing's been put out there. And there's been nothing happened from it. So it was clearly made up. Bruno followed Toon pose at one point and unfollowed after a questionable post. Well, there you go. It does happen. You've got to say as well, do all of these accounts get run by the player? It could be the agent. It could be the missus. It could be their brother. Who knows? Not all of these accounts will be run by the player themselves. Stephen Howe, what I don't understand about amortization is if you sell a player and the buying club paid over 5 years, how can this go into that year's accounts in full? Stephen, it's like Chinese, mate. I don't understand it. I'm exactly the same as you, mate. I've watched videos. I've spoken to people who've got more knowledge of it than me. And it just sounds like, it's like hieroglyphics. It's like Latin. Got no idea, mate. Next season, we need to play Tino from the start and Trips on the bench. Yeah, what's happened to Tino? What has happened to Tino? And none of the journalists have asked him in the press conference. I'm hoping before the next game, is Tino Livramento available? Could be a question that we'll ask. Question, would you accept a bid if someone came for Lascelles in this window? No, not in this window, Tom. I wouldn't sell anybody in this window, I'm afraid. Not with the injuries we've got and the look we've got with injuries. In the summer, possibly, but not now, mate. Definitely not. I like European sport, American stuff. Not my thing. With you regarding the WhatsApp groups. Yeah, honestly, that's become a vexation to the spirit. It's become an absolute nightmare, that, mate. An absolute nightmare. And I mean, I've had to add people to WhatsApp groups and I can almost hear people groaning when they start seeing the things come in, because you'll set it up with good intentions, but you guarantee somebody will abuse the WhatsApp group with a load of spam. There's no other word to describe it. Afternoon, Morris. Which part of the world are you in again, Morris? You mustn't be in the UK. Craig Hope spoke well on another podcast. True Faith, I think it was. Good to see some realism and non-sensationalized journalism. Yeah, a lot of people have asked me, why don't I get Craig on? I remember speaking to him about coming on, and he'd agreed to come on, and I just never chased it up. And at the time, I think we had Liam and Ross on a regular basis. But you know what? I think I've verged more towards Ben Jacobson. I know Ben does a lot of podcasts, but I think what Ben brings is he brings his own opinion, but he can also talk about other things. And I think with some of the journalists we've had on, it hasn't been, they've only been able to concentrate on one thing. And I like to change the channel. And I know that doesn't always go down well. Some people, some programs, people go, oh, I did News of the World. I used to love doing it. But I just don't have the time to cover the news as well. And to be honest, the news is becoming such so depressing. I stopped it because, I couldn't even have a laugh at it. And I just thought it's just time to move on and just concentrate on football. But yeah, no surprise to hear Craig spoke well. But so many journalists now doing podcasts. Craig's one of them. You got Liam and the Geordie Journos. You've got, I've noticed some of the Sunderland lads. James Copley from the Sunderland Echoes now just started a podcast. There's another former kid who used to do Sunderland. He's got a podcast. They're all doing it. Journalism's dead, isn't it? Journalism's dead. It really is. Just enjoy the roller coaster. That's Newcastle United. Jim, well said. Kevin, don't forget no clubs are spending money in this window, but all will spend in the summer, not just us. Look at Spurs, Villa, Chelsea, Man U will spend big. So I think Eddie is long-term for our owners. Good point, Kevin. Yeah, it's Pep Guardiola said they're not going to spend much money in this window either. Not that they really need to improve their team, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be a great deal of spending in this window. Why do we still not have training kit sponsors? Same reason we don't have a ground sponsor, stadium sponsor. Same reason we don't have a training ground sponsor, because they'll want to put it into a different financial year. Morris, it will come. And I think Stu and Mitch have mentioned that on a few occasions now. I'll do 5 more minutes, lads and lasses. and then I'll dodge off because I need to get a shower, etc. Premier League, big 6 clubs have played their part in this by setting the bar high with transfer fees, trying to price the rest of the league and other leagues out of the market. It's annoying, it is. Do you think the fan base was actually more united during Ashley's era? I mean, and we all wanted one thing. A lot of infighting lately with tickets, atmosphere, etc. I think it's the same, mate. It's the same people causing the bother, and it'll never change until those people stop supporting Newcastle, or until 50 years time when most of us aren't here. It's a mess, mate. The fan base, as far as fan groups, podcasters, and obviously I've got to be included in that, and other organizations, it's full of, there's full of egos and people who've got their own agendas, and that's why I took a huge step back, because all I want to do is do NUFC Matters and talk football, give my opinion. It's why I would never work for the club again, and it's why I don't put myself forward for these ticket things. I put myself forward for the first couple of ticket workshops just to see whether I got accepted. I got a rejection letter. I got an email last week inviting us to apply again. I didn't apply, and then I got an email back saying you hadn't been successful. Well, of course I hadn't. I didn't apply. But yeah, I've got no interest, mate. The politics is a load of rubbish, and just let them get on with it, mate. Let them get on with it. And I'll do the odd. I've had 1 or 2 podcasters on here from, John Sinclair's been on, Adam Pearson's been on, Matty's been on. But I very rarely watch the others, and I haven't got the time to sit and watch the other podcasts. Not an interest. We do NUFC Matters. We stick in our lane and just let everybody else fight amongst themselves. David, I got out of it. When they started bringing the post office in, Horizon in, I had Wardley Post Office. I was the postmaster. They told me, the retail network managers told me that they were going to bring in Horizon, and I said, well, I'm off. And my staff said the same. So I sold the post office and I got out, David. What a lucky break. And the reason I got out, because I said you can't trust computers. And how right was I? So I left the post office in 1999. Frank Story, 1 injury, never mentioned. Manquillo, contractual or not getting on with Eddie Howe? Possibly contractual. Pity, because never let me down. Jim, whilst I enjoyed the Champions League experience, I think it came too soon. I've got to agree. Do you think Everton will get more points? Redacted. I think they'll get more points off. Another 6, I think. But I think they'll appeal. It'll be interesting. Steve, would you agree that 9 to 10 Premier League wins get us in the European place? Yes. I think we need to have. The away form improved to do that. I'll take a couple of quick fire ones. Our revenue rate's going to skyrocket in the summer when Adidas sell a kick in. True. How did the Mackem take the defeat on the radio? Thanks in advance. He took it well. Ted's like the Mackem equivalent to me, David. I really like him, and I'm meeting him in February. He's coming over from Cyprus. Why aren't we making the most with the loan system with Saudi Arabia? Kenya Mags, we've got 2 weeks left. Let's see what happens. I don't think the Saudi League will be quite as gung-ho buying players from the Premier League for big money. I agree. I believe we'll end up in a Mercedes-Benz type stadium. Mitch has said the same. I think Stu did as well, holding 80,000 in Lees's Park. I hope so. Heard the promoted teams are only allowed 12 million over regarding FFP for the first 2 years. How can they compete to stay in the Premier League? Making it impossible, mate. Extra capacity stadium can hold many more prawn sandwich types. You're going to hold down season ticket. You're right. For our proper bet, there'll be no season ticket problems and people can sit near their friends. Yeah, God. We'll see. Which Newcastle player would you have liked to have done a talking with on stage, but wasn't possible because of ill health or death? Jackie Milburn. I'd love to have had Jackie Milburn and had that opportunity, but obviously I was too young. That would have been me all-time great to interview him. Tino is ill. Thank you, Blue Rhythm Boy. Tino was ill before the last game. Cheers. I didn't know that. Lee Taylor, evening, Steve. What 2 players would you bring in this window if we could? Calvin Phillips. I think he would be a good fit for Newcastle. And a striker. I would have took anybody on loan up front just to bolster the squad. Ekatike on loan would have been nice. I know it's not what people want to hear, but I would have took Ekatike 100% on loan just to see what he was like. Did Liam Kennedy bottle the paranormal trip? What happened? We haven't done it, Stephen. Lots of things going on towards the back end of the year. I was working away in London, and ultimately we just didn't have time to fit it in. So we will do it, Stephen, 100%. We will do it. And Liam didn't bottle it. I know Liam said he would do it, but we will do it, mate, 100%. At some point, I'd probably prefer to do it. I prefer to do it in a warmer night than this. Kenya Mags, is Mick Lowe's banned from the channel not passed yet? Love the program I sat in the morning. Kenya Mags, listen, I don't want to go into it. It's not fair because Mick's not going to have a right to reply. But we all know what happened, and on social media, and he's not banned from the channel. He just decided to move on, and we moved on, and that's it. And yeah, I love doing the show with Mick, and all I can say about Mick is I wish him well. He's a top bloke, one of the best commentators we ever had as far as Newcastle United was concerned. And if he does listen to the show, if somebody knows him and they hear this, then please pass on my best to him. Later this one, catch up, mate. Yeah, Ian, hope you're well, pal. See Willock and Target were on exercise bikes today. Yeah, there'll be players coming back, I think, who we didn't expect to see back. Jacob Murphy is one. Harvey Barnes is another. Mitro on loan. Good shout, Lee. I hated him as a striker when he was first at the club. He seems to have matured. He does score goals. The only time he didn't score goals was playing for Rafa. Would he be any different? Certainly on loan. Might be a good shout towards the end of the season. Would I sign him permanently? No. Question for Steve. What strong continental lager do they sell at the Irish Centre? Oh, God. I don't drink lager, mate, so I wouldn't know. But they do a canny vodka. Okay, look forward to seeing you on Friday, Ian. Thank you for tuning in. Always surprises me how many people want to listen to me ramble on for an hour. But I do appreciate your support. If you haven't joined the channel, you can. It's cheap. I think it's $1.99. You pay $1.99 a month. You get a few perks. If you want to take a members draw out, it's 25 quid. It's a one-off fee payment. And we are giving tickets away for Nobby Solano tomorrow night. So there'll be a members draw tomorrow night for you to watch. So if you want to take a £25 membership charge out, that's going to save you 15 quid on 2 tickets for Nobby Solano on Friday. So well worth it, and you might win them. And don't forget that there is also a raffle. I'm saying a raffle. It's like an auction going on this website. Now, bear with us. I am going to find it because if I forget to put this up, my mate won't be happy. Now, look, there are 16 items on here, guys and girls. Here we go. Jumbly, it's called. Right, click that link, and you will see lots of items. And you will also see, alongside those items, it says less than 4 days. So you've got a Keegan Beardsley Waddle shirt. You've got Isaac scoring against the Mackhams. You've got Gaza in the dentist's chair. You've got an Isaac Wilson Gordon Barnes signed home shirt. You've got Keegan. You've got Shearer. You've got Gaza. You've got another Shearer shirt. You've got Eddie Howe signed pick. You've got Longstaff signed pick. Joe Linton signed pick. You've got a Gaza and Vinny signed pick. You've got Almiron signed pick. You've got a Bruno signed pick. You've got a Trippier signed pick. And you've got a Gaza Euro 96 signed pick. So there's how many items there? 16 items. So what do? You can place a bid. This is an auction. Some of them you will see in the top corner, it's got buy it. So if you click on it, you can actually buy it for that price. So, for example, the shirts at the top, the Keegan Waddle Beardsley shirt, you can buy one of those for 150 quid. Or you can buy a signed Isaac goal celebration for 150 quid. However, if you don't want to spend that money, you can go into an auction. And as you can see, there's been a couple of bids already on a couple of items. So, Joe Linton, somebody's got a bid in there, £55. Bruno, someone's got a bid in there, £55. When it gets to the end of the 4 days, £55 is the bid. That's what you pay for it. It's as simple as that. So, bookmark that page because we're going to run this until the end of the season. Bookmark that page. I'll keep promoting it, but keep an eye on those days, guys, because when it gets down to the last day, that's probably a good time to get in and bid. If something's not had a bid, get in. And I think there's a countdown for how long it's got to go. So have a look at it, absorb it, take it in. And if there's something there you fancy, it's well worth having a look, well worth having a bid on it. What time's the Amigo on Fridays? It is this Friday, it's 4:30, mate. 4:30 till 6. All the best, Paul. Kenya Mags, great to hear lots of questions answered in super quick time. Fantastic channel. Kenya Mags, honestly, I've seen you in the chat a few times. Thanks for coming on. And thanks to everybody. We'll never take it for granted. Ian, thank you, mate. And thanks for being part of the fans forum. Look forward to seeing you on Friday. Tom, as always, thanks for doing your moderating. And Stephen, we will definitely do that spooky night away. Pleasure as always, folks. I'm off to chill out for 5. Take care. See you tomorrow, Thursday, 6 till 7 with Super Matt and Gibbo. Take care.